What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing a spoiler-free review of The Boogeyman. Yeah, the one that just came out this year is finally out to buy. Let's check it out. Now, The Boogeyman was a movie that I missed early on in the theater because I just wasn't able to watch it. I've not been able to go out to the theater as much for many different reasons, but I didn't get to catch it, but I still wanted to see it. Directed by Rob Savage, who, if you are not familiar, did the movie Host, which was on Shudder as an exclusive that they did about a live footage, sort of found footagey thing where some people over a Zoom call get haunted by some pretty crazy stuff. It was phenomenal. And then he went on to do another really underrated film, in my personal opinion, which is Dashcam. At the time, we were going through the big thing here just the past couple of years, and there was a character in there who was also kind of anti, taking care of yourself, and a lot of people didn't like it for that reason. To me, I thought it was a fantastic movie. The girl didn't bother me, so this is his next movie, which is a movie that is done like a regular film, not like a live footage like those two movies were. And it's based off the Night Shift collection, which is a Stephen King short story called The Boogeyman as well, which I did read quite a bit of, and it does have a scene in the movie that kind of pays homage to it, but they took some of their own liberties with the story and changed things around to kind of make it into a different thing than it was. I can't really say what those things are without spoiling it. So what is it all about? Well, it's a story about a family, one that has lost their mother recently. Two daughters, a younger, an older, and a father, have lost their mother to some sort of tragic death, and they are grieving through the process when a sadistic creature of the night, a closet-dwelling creature, somehow starts feeding on them. As they try to explain this to their therapist father, who should know better, is kind of hiding away from all the tragedy and doesn't really necessarily believe them, and so begins the story of this creature, Boogeyman, sort of tale. Now, this is different from the Boogeyman by Uli Lumel, which is a sort of like a slasher, supernatural slasher that just came out on 4K for Vinegar Syndrome. But this is a completely different story that is taken from a Stephen King short story and kind of twisted into a much more lore-centric kind of story about this Boogeyman. Now, I feel like there is and maybe some sort of metaphorical stuff going on here in the background, but unfortunately this movie, and while I still enjoyed it, mind you, I wish it would have been a little bit better. It's one of those movies that I think is handled well, but it just doesn't really push through the atmosphere to do sort of its own thing. There are moments in the film that the creature and some of the situations are kind of exciting and interesting that I like seeing in a movie, so there is that. So there are some ups and there are some downs. Overall, I think the story was just not as melding together, but there were elements of it that I did really enjoy, so it wasn't necessarily just a bad movie by any means. I've seen some scores that are kind of all over the place on this one, but I honestly think it's a pretty decent movie. It has a couple of scares in the movie that really kind of jolted me, and it like instantly reminded me of my childhood. Most kids have some sort of fear of the closet. They will stare at it for hours while they're in bed until they fall asleep or cover themselves because they're scared of looking at the closet, like myself when I was just a little kid, But something happens in the movie with this closet, and it shook me and instantly brought me back to that moment as a child that I'd practically forgotten. So there are things in this movie that I think are scary. There are some CGI elements in this movie that are scary, which I don't think is that big a deal, but some people may have issues with it. But let's just say, if you saw the movie The Quiet Place or The Quiet Place 2, you really shouldn't have that much of an issue with it because it kind of felt like that. And surprisingly enough, some of the creators of A Quiet Place, the writers of A Quiet Place, actually wrote this story. The writers Scott Beck and Brian Woods, they also wrote Haunt. They did A Quiet Place 1 and 2 and 65 recently. We also have Mark Hayam, who joins to maybe pad out some of the sort of characters a little bit. I'm not 100% sure what his focus was, but he came in to do some work on the film as well in the writing department. He's worked on The Black Swan and The Wrestler, so he's done quite a bit of good work as well. Collaboratively, though, I don't feel like it really worked out as much as I think that they wanted to. I think it kind of leaned a little bit more typical, even though it has those moments in the film that really kind of set it apart from some other films, which we're starting to see in a lot of films today, because we've seen these tropes before, we've seen these types of movies before, and if you're not willing to do some different things, you're going to lose the audience entirely. But, you know, it didn't lose me entirely here. Like I said, there are some fun things to be had in here, some scares to be had. Some of the performances in the movie were kind of decent. One by David Dastmalchian, who has been in a lot of like James Gunn movies. He's played a lot of like really dark characters where they kind of like lose it. And I always really like him in these kind of movies because he does a really good job of looking like something bad is going to happen. Sophie Thatcher, who plays the older sister Sadie in this movie, I think does a fantastic job. I think she's going to be on to do some pretty big stuff here in the future. She's pretty good at what she does, and she does the really good role of being sort of semi-angsty teen who's dealing with the loss of their mother while also kind of being the hero and in this movie in a lot of ways. Now, I won't say what happens to any of the characters or anything, but let's just say she carries a lot of the weight of the problems in this family, and it is kind of surprising that, you know, you see that in these films these days. So that's a nice touch to put in these films, I think. But we're also kind of reaching that tropic level as well. So, but yeah, I don't know. I think this movie probably deserves a 7 out of 10. It's not one that I'm going to watch a lot of, and it's really kind of a little disappointing. I really kind of wanted it to be more than it was. I was rooting for it the whole time. These are the types of stories that I enjoy. These are the types of stories I like. I don't think the CGI was really all that much of a hindrance because they kind of used it really well. They did some really good setups for these scares and things that were alarming. Some people might call them jump scares, but I think they gave it a little bit more air about it to let it kind of breathe a little bit, to be a real scare. The creature is actually very different. By the end of the movie, you'll be like, whoa, this is really different than I've seen. But yeah, overall, I think it's just a 7 out of 10, unfortunately. Not going to be the best movie this year, but it's still worth a watch, and I'll definitely own it, of course, on Blu-ray as well at some point in time. But if you want to buy it, you can watch it right now. It's $14.99 on any of your regular digital platforms, or if you want to wait, I'm sure it'll come to one of the streaming services. In order of my favorite Rob Savage movies, I would probably say Host, Dashcam, and then this one. I still hope to see him do more films as a director in the real space, as well as maybe even going back to some of the live found footage kind of thing too. But I didn't hate this movie, so I still really enjoy Rob Savage's work, and I will continue to look out for his films. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I would love to hear what you think. Let me know by hitting the like and subscribe button and the little bell notification so you know that I have a new video coming up. But I got a lot more on the way, so definitely be staying tuned to my YouTube. But thanks for coming by, and as always, long live the boy.